Hi, this video is for Tuesday, March 24th for calculus. We're going to be reviewing how to find limits from a graph and from a table. So we learned this concept way early on in the year, in the fall, but we're going to review because coming up we're going to need to use our knowledge of limits to do other things. So stay tuned for that. But today we're going to review how to find the limit from a graph and from a table. So I've posted these notes to Google Classroom along with a Google form that I want you to fill out after you've watched this video and after you've read the notes. So in mathematics, a limit is the value that a function approaches as the input approaches some value. So I'm going to give you an example of how to read it. So in math, they'll give you something like this: a limit as x approaches 4. Okay, so that's how you read that. The limit as x approaches 4. If they have this symbol, that means the limit as x approaches 4 from the left, because it's negative, and on a number line, negative numbers are to the left of positive numbers, or 0, which is a neutral number. So if you're approaching from the left, you're approaching from this side. Okay, if it said limit as x approaches 4 from the right with a plus sign, that means you would be coming in from the other side, from the right. So here, let's make this more realistic. Let's make this number 4, this is 3, and this is 5. If we're approaching 4 from the right, we're coming in from that way. If we're approaching 4 from the left, we're coming in from this way. And we want to know, what does the function do as you approach it from the left and from the right? Okay, so we're going to look at example 1. We're going to have this graph, and there are lots of different questions I've asked you about it. So I'm going to take this off camera for a second to sort of draw the picture, and then we'll talk about it. So as I'm drawing this picture, I want to tell you that I really appreciated all of your nice comments and emails about the videos, because I'm making them for you, so I'm glad that they are helping, because that's my goal. I wanted them to help. Obviously, I'd rather be there in person to teach you, but it's nice to know that this is helping a bit. Okay, so I'm just about done with this roughly drawn picture, and then we will talk about it. Okay, here we go. So, this is our picture, and the first question says, find the limit of f of x, so that means find the limit of the function, as x approaches negative 4. Okay, so here is negative 4. As x approaches negative 4 from the left, it's going to this point, which its y value is 2. And as you come in from the right, it also approaches that value, and its y value is 2. So that's why the limit of f of x as x approaches negative 4 is 2, because from the left and the right, it's approaching the same point. Okay, so you can read that in your notes. Alright, part B says find the limit of f of x as x approaches 1. So here's 1. As we come in from the left side, it's approaching this point. But as we come in from the right side, it's approaching this point. And if you recall from way back in the fall, when it approaches two different values from the left and from the right, we have to say that the limit does not exist. Because from the left it's approaching this, but from the right it's approaching this. So we're not really sure what's going on, so you have to say the limit does not exist. Okay, so part C, if you keep scrolling, part C says find the limit of f of x as x approaches 6. So here's 6. As it approaches from the left, it's going to this point. As we approach from the right, it's also going to this point. So, since they approach the same value, but if you notice, at x equals 6 itself, we have this dot. But that's okay, that's just what it happens to equal at x equals 6. But since it's approaching from the left and from the right to the same value, and that y value is 5, we're going to say that the limit as f of x approaches 6 is 5. Okay? Alright, so the last part, we're going to find the limit of f of x as x approaches 1 from the right. So only from the right side. So as we approach 1 from the right, it's going to here. So what is the y value of this? -2. So as f of x approaches 1 from the right, the limit is -2. So that is how you find a limit from a graph. Now we're going to review how to find the limit from a table. So luckily finding a limit from a table is pretty straightforward. You just have to look at what's happening from the left side and what's happening from the right side. And if they're somewhat approaching the same value, you can make a guess as to what the limit would be. But if they're not approaching the same thing from the left and right, you would have to say the limit does not exist. So we're going to look at example 2. Example 2 is strictly about looking at a table and trying to find the limit from the table. So what we have here is we have a function, and we're going to figure out what is the limit as x approaches 0. Okay, so as you can see from your table, we have x and we have f of x. So we're going to pick some test points on either side of 0. Okay, so all of these are to the left of 0. And as you can see on your notes, it seems like it's getting closer and closer to 2. So from this side, it looks as if the limit is approaching 2. We're now going to check out what's happening from the right side. Here, that's backwards. Hang on. Back up. That's the same thing twice. It's fun when you don't sleep well, and then you're also riding downhill. Oh well. You get the gist. Okay, so if you're looking at your notes that I posted to Google Classroom, as we're coming in from the right side of this, we have like 2.00, 2.0000, and then 2.0000. So it looks as if we're approaching 2 from the right as well. So since we're approaching 2 from the left and we're approaching 2 from the right, you can say that the limit of f of x as you approach 0, it equals 2. Okay, so the limit as x approaches 0 of f of x equals 2. Okay, so that's the first table. Now, you're going to have some other tables like this on your Google form. So you have to look at what is it approaching from the left, what is it approaching from the right, and if they approach the same value, that's just what it equals. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. This is a slight review of what we covered in the fall. So if it's a graph, you have to check it out from both sides if it doesn't specify left or right. If it's approaching the same value from the left and the right, then it has a limit. If they're approaching different values, then it doesn't have a limit. If it has a minus sign behind the number, that means approaching from the left. If it has a plus sign behind the number, that means you're approaching from the right. And that's pretty much it. So, good luck. I think you're all doing great, and I hope to see you soon.